Welcome back, dear students. Today we will complete the remaining portions of the poem My Mother 66. So as of now, we finished of the first few lines of the poem. Like it started with this stanza, driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning, and we ended up to spilling out of their homes. Now, what did we find there? We found that once the poet went to visit her mother, she was on her way back to the airport to return to Cochin. She looked at her mother, who was seated beside her in the car. Her mother dozed off to sleep, and her aging face was smoky in color like ash. Her mouth was open, and she resembled a dead body. The poet realized that her mother was old. She felt pain and sympathy for her. Her mother needed love, affection, and care. I'm just telling you in brief what we found in the previous lines that we have read. So in order to come out of the gloom, the poet shifted, this stanza. Come out of the gloom, the poet shifted her glance and looked out of the car's window. There she saw young trees pass by. Little children were running out of their houses into the playgrounds, like many children spilling out of their homes. Okay, so these things we found that these things are in contrast to what was there inside the car, the image there that she developed, the impression that she developed after looking at her mother's face. So these are contrary to the aging face of her mother, and undoubtedly they symbolized energy, life, and happiness. Now, what happened next? So today we will see the other things, what happened next. So let's continue. After reaching, so what happened there? Just she looked at her mother's face, and then in order to overcome the pain that she realized, that she experienced, based after the post-realization that her mother was as old as she looked, she started looking outside the world, outside the car, the world outside the car. And resultantly, she could somehow overcome it. But could she overcome it completely? Let's see. The next few lines will make us understand whether she could overcome it completely or not, or she had to face the reality as it was. But after the airport security check, standing a few years away, I looked again at her, wan, pale as a late winter's moon. Now be very careful with the expressions here. After the airport security check, we all have, or many of us have the experience of going by a plane, traveling by plane. Now, what actually happens there when we travel on a plane, the moment we enter the airport, we have to pass through different security checkups. So this security check is done with a view to see whether things are okay with the boarding passenger or not. Once it is over, you cannot meet the persons who go there with you to see you off. And so quite naturally, if you are to see them, it is from a distant view is available only. And that's exactly what happened to the poet. You see, in the photo image there also, you see there is a border or a bar kind of thing. The distance is shown. Okay. So what happened? But after the airport security check, standing a few yards away, as I told you, we cannot meet them physically. So after the airport security check, standing a few yards away, so this time the view is a distant one. Standing a few yards away, I looked again at her. Be very careful. I looked again at her. Clear? She sees the weak, pale, and dull face of her mother. She sees the weak, pale, and dull face of her mother. That makes things very clear, because at the very beginning we found that her mother was completely lusterless, and the same thing was noticed by her when she looked at her after the security check. And now the face was what? Wan and pale. Now this face she compares to late winter's moon. She compares her mother's pale, dull appearance with winter's moon, with the appearance of winter's moon, just like this. Clear? So that is the thing. I looked again at her one pale as a late winter's moon. Be careful with the expression. Pale as a late winter's moon. As. Just be sincere there. As. Use of the word as. It invites a case of simile. Here, it's a case of simile. We know words like as, like, as when they are used to compare, they form the poetic device, figure of speech simile. Now, why a late winter's moon? What does it represent? What does it symbolize? It symbolizes the last stage, a decaying stage. As winter is the last stage of seasonal cycle, old age is the last stage of human life. Spring is the beginning. Winter is the end phase, is the last phase. And exactly the same thing there. So the same thing happened. Her mother was in the last phase of her life. The moon was in the last phase of its life. Winter. Okay, it's foggy, it's unclear, hazy, it lacks all glow, it's colorless. And the mother's face of the mother exactly replicated the image of the moon, a dying moon, not the romantic one. Clear? That gives sadness. So see, every time she looks at her mother, nothing vibrant comes out. When she was in the car, her face appeared like the face of a dead body, and when she sees her as you can say as a vision of or view of a dew, even there also the face brings in an image of something very sad, decay, death, paleness. These things come in. Clear? This is exactly what happens what impression she forms whenever she looks at her mother's face. So that is exactly what happened. And felt that old familiar ache. And as soon as she looked at her mother, she felt that old familiar ache. My childhood's fear, but all I said was, see you soon, Amma. All I did was smile and smile and smile. Just observe the things. And felt that old familiar ache. It has got two connotations. One is based on her practical life, biological, you can say biography, related to her biography. And the other one is a general experience. Felt that old familiar ache. What is it? She looked at her mother's dull, pale face, and this brings back the pain, ache means pain, that she has been familiar with. So we have two instances how the pain is familiar to her. Two instances of it are there with us. One, she experienced this pain when she was inside the car. She experienced that pain when she was inside the car. So the pain is familiar to her. And the second time, when after the security check, she looked at her mother, she experienced the same pain. So the pain was familiar to her. But the very next expression makes things a little different to us. My childhood's fear. There comes the biographical element. This pain is due to the fear since her childhood, the fear of losing her mother or being separated from her mother. Now it has got two connotations, as I told you. One, the fear of mother going away, the fear of separation from mother is a commonplace thing with every kid we know. Any kid, if you say your mother won't come again now, so when it won't come again, this will make the kid cry. And exactly a similar thing happened to her. A similar thing happened to her. The fear that she had in the childhood, the fear of losing her mother, was felt by her again. In this way, it was a familiar ache. The pain was familiar. It was known to her when she was a kid, and again she is coming across, or she has come across the same pain. Thus the pain is familiar. My childhood's fear. My childhood's fear. Now coming to the biographical element. What is it? When she was a kid, it's mentioned in her biography also. In many instances and references are there. Okay, so she always had the nightmare. She had the nightmare of her mother's death. At nights, there are many nights when she woke up just because she had the nightmare of her mother's death. So such things happened to her, and that generated some fear in her. Oh, if my mother dies, the fear of losing her mother, the separation from her mother. As a poet also, her life was a very painful one. Many a time she took many decisions whimsically, and these things led to a total disaster in her life. Okay, although she was a brilliant poet, but as a person living a life, she was not that successful. She suffered a lot. Okay, so let's continue. So, and felt that old familiar ache, my childhood's fear. But could she start crying, oh mother, you are going to die? No, that's not possible. That's not practical either. So she didn't say anything. All I said was, see you soon, Amma. Just be careful with the words. She hides her pain. She hides her pain and utters 4 words only as her parting words. These are her parting words before catching the flight. See you soon, Amma. See you soon, Amma. That's all. And all I did, she couldn't do anything. She couldn't help. She knew it. Death is inevitable. She cannot. She knew it pretty well, that she won't be able to save her mother from the clutches of death. It comes to everybody, and so it will come to her mother. She could not escape it. Knowing all these things, she tried to hide, because if she expressed it even more, the result will be her mother will be broken like anything. She might be broken to death. So she had to hide her emotion. The pain, the fear, the sufferings must be hidden. And she hid everything and only said, see you soon, Amma, and helplessly smiled. Observe something here also. All I did was smile and smile and smile. She continuously smiled. And here she has used the word smile repetitively. It is the figure of speech used here is repetition. You might be asked a question in exam. Name the figure of speech used here. The answer is repetition. Poetic device or figure of speech. So it will be repetition. So after saying these parting words, the poet has only has a smile on her face only. And you observe that the word smile is used thrice. With her smile, the poet hides her pain and hopes to meet her mother next time. Although she was very, helpless as far as the situation was concerned. I hope you have understood the poem. If in case you have any queries, feel free to WhatsApp me your issues. The number is already shared in the notes shared with you. Thank you. Although I need to mention some more important things there. If you observe the poem, you will see that there is not a single full stop. It has many commas in it only. What does it mean? Yes, it simply means that the poem carries a single tone of thought, a single chain of thought, sometimes supported by the branch thoughts All the other elements related to Eb, the poem is centered around her mother and mother's face. Mother's aging, rather, her mother's aging. Centered around her mother's aging, and rest of the ideas, whatever was talked about, are all centered around that aging and her pain. Okay, so this is what the poem carries. You see, just after the poem, if you have the textbook, you will see that at the end of the text of the poem, you will find a box where it is mentioned in detail. A little bit of it I have already told you. So we see, until now we have read the poem and we have seen what? That the poet going to airport, traveling by car, is accompanied by her mother. Her mother, sleeping with her mouth open, has a pale and ashen face. Poet feels scared, thinking that mother may die soon. Wants to distract herself, thus looks outside. She sees complete contrast outside. Trees sprinting, merry children spilling. She reaches airport, looks at her mother again, who appears pale, dull-like, late winter's moon. Again realizes with pain the familiar and very old, since her childhood it was there, old familiar ache. See here, that fear of loss, fear of separation from mother. Although she hides it and putting up a brave front, she smiles to hide her fear. She doesn't want to upset her mother and hopes to see her again. She says to her mother, "See you soon, Amma." That's all. Thank you.